Rebecca Kite and I got the idea to build Timpani in the early 1980s. We really were concerned about innovations in design, and we ended up with 4 patents on our drums, U.S. patents and international patents. I would like to tell you how we made the Timpani bowls. We went to D. Picking and Company in Bucyrus, Ohio, where we worked with Robert Picking. We knew that D. Picking and Company made hand-hammered copper bowls. A lot of research was done on the acoustics of timpani, and we had a new idea for the shape of a timpani bowl. We made it a parabolic shape. The side of the bowl, the depth of the bowl, and the diameter of the bowl all had a mathematical relationship. I called D. Picking and Company to see if they would make our bowls. Robert Picking, who was 102 years old, was still working in the business. Mr. Picking modernized the shop in 1920 when he was 40 years old. It had belts running along the top that made it possible to move all the machinery. Everything was done on pulleys along the top in a central generator. The timpani bowls were a very, very small part of their business. They had one kind of pattern, and that was what they used. We wanted a different shape. It would require a different pattern. So after being there for a few days, Robert Picking said to us, well, if you want to come back with your pattern, we could see if we could show you how to use your pattern and how to make the bowls. I think in a million years he never thought that we would return, but we did. We came back with 5 patterns for drums all the way up to the 32-inch size drum, which was not a size that they had ever made before.
This is a pattern for the side of a 32-inch bowl. This is the main part of the bowl, and you can see it goes on forever.
And the way the patterns work, it's something like a dress sleeve or a shirt sleeve. It starts out flat, you bring it together, and you have a cylinder, a lot like this. So this starts out flat, and then it comes together, and it has a seam. And the seam has notches cut on one side and the flat piece on the other side, and you put the notches in and out like this, and then you run some brass, you melt brass, this is called brazing, and you run the brass in between, and that's what makes the seam in the side. This is the bottom, and I have a line drawn around here where you can see I'm going to cut the notches in the bottom here, and it's going to slip up. The notches will slip up right along here, and I'll be able to hook them in and out exactly the way I did the notches on the side seam. And I will curve this in, that's called raising the bottom, and I'll curve the top part down in, that was called drawing it down. And then we'll braze this in and I'll hammer them together. When it's finished, it's going to look like this. And here's the side seam, and you can see how they've come together. Later on, Mr. Picking wrote a letter to us. This is what it said. January 6, 1983. This year has been a memorable one for me as you girls invaded D. Picking and Company. I never thought I'd see the day that there would be a woman coppersmithing in my shop. Things do change. I'm glad you thought I was helpful for you, Barbara. I try to be that as often as possible. Sincerely, Robert Picking, Master Dictator.
reasons that we decided to build timpani is that I had found from my work as a timpani player and also as a technician taking care of the instruments at Indiana University, I had found designs in existing drums that I thought weren't as good as they could be. I had ideas about how to improve the timpani, especially in some of the mechanical parts of it. For example, the Dresden-style timpani we have a rocker arm, this arm that goes across the bottom part of the drum, and it's fixed at one end and it's turned and pushed down at the other end, which means that that rocker arm moves in an arcing motion, and it pulls the spider down in an arcing motion, and it pulls the head down more on one side than the other side. I thought this was something that could be fixed, and one of the main parts of our patent is the piston lever arm and the piston, where we inserted a lever arm with a rack gear cut on the end of it into a piston that goes straight up and down. So the lever arm goes in between the rocker arm and the spider, and that lever arm takes up the arcing motion. So the spider can only move vertically through its entire range of movement.
Maybe our biggest innovation, however, was the top part of our drum could be disconnected from the pedal base. So the tensioning mechanism that was the pedal base and the sound mechanism, which was the bowl and the top and the counter hoop and so forth, those could come in separate parts. This meant a lot of things. First, we could invent a second type of drum, which was a chain-driven drum. One cog was on the outer edge and it tensioned an inner cog. That meant that a student could have the top half of the drum, which was affordable, and then buy the pedal base later on and have professional sound from the very beginning.
There are other aspects of the patent we thought would make a better sounding drum. For example, we have more tuning lugs on the 28 and the 32-inch drums so that there are more adjustment points to get a clear sound from the head. When we started building the timpani, I had a sound in mind that I really wanted to hear, and we started with the sound producing part of the drum, which is of course the bowl and the support ring and the struts that hold the bowl up and just a simple cross piece. And at that point we were able to put drums together and hear the sound. The first time I used those drums was recording this album, Rainbow Path, with Kay Gardner. So that was really exciting to hear that. And then when the Tactical Air Command Band at Langley, Virginia, with Lowell Graham as conductor, and the timpani player Jim Nerscher recorded The Rite of Spring, and it was really rewarding and exciting to hear our drums on someone else's recording and another timpani player playing them. So hearing other people play the instruments that we built is really, really rewarding part of this whole project.